The Royal Horticultural Society has been a bastion of British horticulture for over 200 years and has helped inspire millions to get involved in gardening. Best known for staging the world's most famous and prestigious flower show, Chelsea. It has 4 showcase gardens up and down the country. But back in 2017, the RHS embarked on a 5th garden, one of the most ambitious and challenging garden projects the UK has ever seen. Their plan? To transform a neglected grand Victorian estate in Greater Manchester into a world-class garden. With exclusive access, we go behind the scenes and meet the top team of designers.
I think they could be possibly controversial.
Once they've got green plants all over them, they'll look much more at home.
Engineers.
In terms of how these walls are built, we're working to the millimetre.
And gardeners.
We're constructing a stream in the middle of winter. So as you can see, we're walking through soup.
Tasked with taking on this colossal multi-million-pound construction project.
It's been a steep learning curve, but it's been a really amazing one.
We'll witness the huge challenges they face.
We've just got this bleeding through from the sandstone at the moment.
It's an absolutely critical element, isn't it, of the design.
And how they cope when the coronavirus pandemic hits, only 6 months before the garden's grand opening. This is the story of RHS Bridgewater, the great northern garden build. The story of Bridgewater started more than 150 years ago, when the first Earl of Ellesmere, who made his fortune from coal and canals, built Worsley Old Hall on top of this hill in Salford, Greater Manchester. It was one of the grandest houses in England. Ellesmere was such an important figure and his house so grand that Queen Victoria visited twice. And she would have admired the grand formal terrace, the ornamental lake, and eaten food from the 11-acre walled garden. After Victoria and Ellesmere were long gone, Worsley Hall fell into decline, finally succumbing to a fire in the 1940s. For the next 8 decades, the derelict remains of the 154-acre site were largely forgotten and left untouched. Until in 2017, the RHS chose this site to build their 5th garden. Once they got the keys, and with an initial budget of £30 million, the RHS embarked on building one of the biggest new gardens Europe has seen in years.
This is by far and away the biggest project and the biggest budget that I've ever managed. I mean, it's off the Richter scale in terms of size.
A huge team of engineers, contractors, gardeners and volunteers began a massive programme of creating new gardens. Repairing the old lake and sourcing hundreds of thousands of plants. The team also built a state-of-the-art welcome building and created a new lake. By the beginning of 2020, the team had just come through one of the wettest winters the Northwest had seen in years.
We're kind of breaking the rules a little bit. We shouldn't really be planting in soil this damp.
And in February, the RHS announced that the garden would open in July, ramping up the pressure on the Bridgewater team. So, with just 6 months to go before opening, the team have a challenge on their hands, transforming a building site into a world-class garden. The 11-acre walled garden is the jewel in the crown of Bridgewater. It's divided in two. One side is the kitchen garden, and the other half is the Paradise Garden. Designed by acclaimed landscape designer Tom Stewart Smith, it's inspired by the Paradise Gardens of Persia. Back in October 2019, the team began work on a special section of the garden, using trees native to Iran as the focal point of the design.
The peach trees are Persian ironwood, Parotia persica. It's quite a nice idea to have them, because in many ways Iran is culturally the home of some of the greatest paradise gardens. So rather nice to have that little moment there.
Before planting, Michael McCann and the arborist team are meticulously checking that the pleached Parotias will create a symmetrical enclosure in line with Tom's design.
It's got to give a good impression as you're walking through the garden. That's the main effect we tried to get with the Parotias. Obviously the beautiful trees with them being bleached and, the focal point of the garden.
It's nice to be able to get them all set in right the first time, and then at least we know it's going to look right by the eye then.
We do have to stand back a little bit and, make sure that every path you're coming off, they all line up well.
Next to the Paradise Garden is the kitchen garden. This half of the walled garden has been designed by Chelsea Gold Medal winners Hugo Bugg and Charlotte Harris. Their design reflects the heritage of the site, inspired by the canal network created by the first Earl of Ellesmere. It's October 2019, and they're visiting the fabricators to see the daring metal structures that will form a key part of their garden design.
There are 7 of them in total. Got 4 here that have been galvanised, 3 to go. And we wanted to come and see them at the yard and see how our drawings had come to life, really.
Right from the start, we had this idea of trying to bring that industrial sort of heritage and linking it to the chimney within the garden. Things like this detail here, the angles of that are then matching the chimney on site. It's like that iconic stack, which you see right from the middle of the walled kitchen garden back up.
I think they could be possibly controversial. I think the garden we've designed is not what you might imagine to be a traditional Victorian walled kitchen garden.
And I think they look more controversial here right now. Once they've got green plants all over them, now they'll look much more at home.
Back at the garden, it's all go. Some of the key signature plants are going in. 36 clipped beech trees resembling beehives are being planted throughout the Paradise Garden.
Can you get out that side, mate, yeah?
These statuesque specimens break up the space and deliver striking architectural interest. And in the kitchen garden, Charlotte and Hugo's huge towers, a fundamental part of their design, are finally being erected. It's early December 2019, and garden curator Marcus Chilton-Jones is keen to check on the progress of the 2 Victorian-style glasshouses built on the south-facing wall of the Paradise Garden. The old glasshouses were in such bad repair, they had to be scrapped, but the intact original footings are now the foundations for the new structures.
So it's great to just, finally see the thing going up.
It's going well, yeah, it's going according to plan. We're a little bit behind schedule.
Not too much behind schedule.
No. We were hoping to get the 2 greenhouses done before Christmas, and we're not going to achieve that now, but we won't be far off, I don't think.
We want to get the heating in mid-February, ideally, at the latest.
Yeah.
It'll obviously be frost-free, and then we can start doing the planting in the beds that are in these glass houses, if it's frosty or wet outside. So this is kind of an insurance policy for the team. We can just keep the show on the road then. So if that slips off, then our insurance policy has gone out the window and it will all get a bit more stressful. But that's not going to happen.
2 months later, it's February 2020. And a team of volunteers are helping to prepare the kitchen garden for planting. Over 700 volunteers have worked on the project, and with over 28,000 plants planned for the space, their help is vital to the garden's development. The site includes over 70 acres of woodland, and this waterlogged field will be the Chinese streamside garden. It will connect Ellesmere Lake to the newly built Moon Bridgewater next to the Welcome Building by a sinuous stream of water, punctuated with a series of rock pools. These will be planted with Chinese native plants, and visitors will be able to wander through the woodland via a series of Chinese-inspired bridges. Woodland and Estate Garden Manager Tracy Snell is responsible for delivering this part of the project.
We're constructing a stream in the middle of winter, and it's been a very wet winter. So as you can see, we're walking through soup. And because it's in a woodland, we're restricting our contractor to one route only to save our trees, which means that route is complete slop. And then on top of that, really key part of our garden is working very closely with the Chinese community in Manchester, but also some Chinese designers and experts over in Yangzhou in China. We want them to come over to do a really important rock formation. That's not something that in the UK we have the skill or ability to do that, so we're really reliant on them to come over, do a skill share and train us up and teach us how to do that.
But China is the first country to see the devastating effects of coronavirus, and this is having serious repercussions for Tracy and her team.
We're having problems at the moment because they are currently in China, there's a coronavirus, and we don't know whether they're going to be able to come over and whether we're going to be able to do it. We can't delay our programme much longer, so we're trying to work out how we can deliver a rock feature without their expert input.
One man who has to use all his expertise to help supervise the build of all the various gardens on site is curator Marcus, who's on one of his regular tours with projects manager John Pye.
So we're in the kitchen garden, and progress in here is moving really well now too. By the time we get to the tail ends of April, so a couple of months to 10 weeks from now, this should be pretty much planted up in entirety. We should be picking over the bones. The team have started planting up at the far end. Charlotte Harris is on site today, so they're marking up and laying out plants.
So today we're setting out the beds for the east side of the kitchen garden. And as you can see, what we've done is we've divided it into metre square grids, so that what we can do is then map out the planting plans that we've come up with quite easily. Then I've been using that to guide spray the positions of all our planting. And a few things are in, as you can see, but Storm Kira has been playing havoc with us today. And what we're slightly concerned about is these little 9-centimetre pots won't make it through the night. They're a little bit light and run the risk of being blown around the site. So we're not going to set them in place this afternoon. We're going to wait till early tomorrow morning, set them in, and then there's a number of volunteers coming in as well to help plant.
Next door in the Paradise Garden, Marcus and John are inspecting the newly completed Victorian-style glasshouses.
I'm absolutely delighted with the look and feel of these. I think they've done an excellent job, and they'll only truly come to life and serve their purpose once the plants actually go in them. So they're shells at the moment that are full of promise, but that aren't quite at the point of being able to have the wow factor.
This is one where you've got a mini project within a project, because this could be somebody's day job for months and months and months, but this is just one little element of Bridgewater.
But not everything in the Paradise Garden is going swimmingly. There's a problem with its centrepiece, the lily pond.
We've got the staining on this water feature. We've just got this bleeding through from the sandstone at the moment, and we've just got to work a solution to stop it coming back. So the last thing we want is it keeps coming back and back.
It's quite interesting the way it does it, though, because, like, on that northern side, in that middle section, there's virtually nothing, is there? But that bottom right-hand bit there, there's a lot there, isn't there? So it's quite variable in the amount that it's bleeding out.
I mean, this was cleaned off just before Christmas, and it's come back quite rapidly.
Yeah. I think in terms of characterising not only the Paradise Garden, but the whole of the gardens here, it's an absolutely critical element, isn't it, of the design?
Yeah. We've got to find a fix to it.
Yeah.
This isn't just a garden, it's a multi-million-pound business that will employ hundreds of people to maintain and run it. From the cafe staff, through shop managers, to the gardeners. Richard Green has been brought in as overall head. Everything that happens here is his responsibility.
By the time we open, everything needs to look pristine, and I mean everything. And the deadline is absolutely critical. If there's one thing that can't move, it's the deadline. The opening date's set, we've got to hit it.
On the 11th of March 2020, the World Health Organization announced that coronavirus is a pandemic. Cases and deaths rise in the UK, and Britain goes into lockdown.
From this evening, I must give the British people a very simple instruction. You must stay at home.
A huge blow for plans to open the garden on July the 30th. Although construction work is allowed during the first lockdown, work at Bridgewater is halted to allow the organisation to assess the risk to contractors, staff and volunteers. Following a review, the overall number of people on site is reduced to a minimum to allow for social distancing in line with government guidelines. Staff are also put on split shifts to reduce numbers on site at any one time, and the volunteer programme is stopped. But with the crisis worsening, the RHS have no option but to postpone the grand opening until the 18th of May 2021. The impact on the team is enormous.
We went from feeling like we were in sixth gear and then boom, and it felt like we dropped to second gear. There was no diggers, no dumpers, no planes flying over. It was completely silent apart from the birds and a little bit of soil titivating and plants going in and low chatter. So it was actually really tranquil, really peaceful, really calm.
At one point, we sent all our contractors away, and then we only very gradually brought more contractors back in, but we tried to make sure we only had one or two on site at any one time. So that delayed an awful lot of the work that we were doing.
But despite the challenges, delaying the opening means more time for the garden to develop.
We have actually started delivering more than we would have had ready for opening. So in my area, we're doing the Chinese water garden. We've got a lakeside path now, so you can walk all the way around our old lake, which wouldn't have been done.
With contractors returning to site, even with social distancing restrictions, they have cracked on with the build. And Richard Green is happy with the progress.
So this is going to be our visitors' first experience of RHS Bridgewater, this stunning new welcome building. And immediately they're going to be drawn towards this beautiful picture window of the garden. And our aim is to get them through and into the garden as quickly as possible. And they'll be, spending a few hours in there and their legs will be weary. And then this will be the building where their visit will end as well. So they'll come back through, they'll be drawn down through the gift shop. It's in construction, as you can see. And then you can see here we're arriving into the cafe. And this is going to be using all of the produce from the kitchen garden. You can see this L-shaped section will all be seating for our visitors, and the terrace out there as well with the beautiful views over the meadow. It's genuinely exciting to be in this building now for the first time and starting to see what it's going to be like when the visitors experience it for the first time.
One of the first things visitors will see as they enter the garden from the welcome building will be these magnificent yew domes, sitting elegantly on a formal lawn. Horticulturist Steve Ultram is responsible for this area and takes immense pride in his work.
I've been taken on as the turf guy. Not tough guy, but the turf guy. So anything turf-wise, grass-wise, I'm involved with that.
Nearly 40 years ago, I came into horticulture to become a gardener, to take after my grandfather. But more importantly, I'm working for the RHS. I think that's really special. And that's probably one of the most proudest things I'm working for them. It's making me feel up. Sorry. This here is going to be our baby. This is our formal lawn. So this one has just been sown down now. It's been prepared with a nice free draining root zone. And I would expect with these weather conditions that this will probably be germinating within 12 to 14 days. And I'll probably be taking the moor up it within 21 to 28 days. So within 6 weeks, this will be looking pretty stunning. A lawn is there to be enjoyed, yes, to look at it and see it in all its beauty, but my challenge is to allow people to walk on there and still maintain it as a first-class lawn.
The contemporary Paradise Garden occupies one half of the western walled garden. The walls create a microclimate in which a wide range of plants can flourish. But the focal point is the lily pond. Chief Engineer Laura Birkin is responsible for all the major water projects, but the pond is causing her some sleepless nights because the edges keep discolouring.
I think given that we're in the Paradise Garden, which really is the sort of central feature in the garden, it was a worry when it started happening, and we've been troubleshooting, trying to figure out ways to manage it. It's not something that we can sort of live with and leave, particularly when the public start coming in. So what we've had to do is drain the pond down, and we've got stonemasons in at the minute, putting a sealant around the edge to try and stop that leaching coming through. What we'll then do after about a week or so is refill the water feature in the hope that the lime staining that we've got comes out into the water. We'll then have to drain it down once more in case the water's become contaminated, at which point we can fill it up for one final time and get the feature running and put the lilies in here that are due to go in. The two other main water features in the garden, the historic lake at the top of the garden, now referred to as Ellesmere Lake, is full and has been repaired and is holding water, which is great. Next to the welcome building, we've got the new lake, which again is now nearly filled up, and the gardeners have started planting it, which is great.
The planting around the lakes and throughout the garden is a cause for optimism. Now the team can get a glimpse of what the many borders and beds will look like in the summer months. And a month later in August, one area in particular is looking very impressive indeed.
Literally, it's 4 weeks to the day now that it was seeded down. So from the seed going on to where we are now, that's taken us 4 weeks. And the weather's been good, but we have had some extremes in there. We've had heavy rain, so the third day into it being sown, there was a river of water running through it, which isn't ideal. And then last week we had temperatures in 30 degrees, 32 degrees. So we've kind of lurched from extremes with the water, but even so, we've still managed to get a half-decent lawn. It's at 4 cuts now. On Sunday, I was a little bit panicky. It looked like it was on the turn a little bit, and I think that was down to the heat. And the few little thin areas we've just bolstered up with a little bit of extra seed as well. So we're back on schedule again for an A1 lawn. The lawn is brilliant where it's situated. It's right there at the main entrance. As you come through the welcome building, the lawn is just there in front of you, and it's been set out as a formal lawn. The simplicity of it with the yew domes
just makes it such an attractive feature. And I think it just sets the atmosphere for what the garden's about. Obviously, it's the RHS's lawn, but my passion for the job, it will always feel like my lawn. Yeah, so, you know what, it's my lawn.
Tracy also has a lot of personal investment in one particular area, the Chinese streamside garden. Today she's sourcing some signature plants with Head of Plant Procurement, Dario Spagnoli.
Dario has been traipsing the country, visiting every nursery, going to try and find the most amazing acers and pines and podocarpus for our Chinese streamside garden. And these are some of the creme de la creme.
This is rare and unusual plant material, and it's difficult to find. And you have specialist growers who dedicate 50 years of their life to growing these particular plants, which, you know, we're looking for.
This one, I think, will work really well when you're looking towards the rocks. You've got the pool and the cascade, and then it's on the left-hand side. We're not necessarily looking for a perfect specimen. We're looking for one that's got character, had a life, because a lot of the pines and the evergreens that you see in China have that character and that stem and the shape and the interweaving of branches.
These are going to be around 20, 30 years old.
It's amazing, really, isn't it? If it's 20 to 30 years of care and attention to get it to this form.
You know, Podocarpus macrophyllus, as a tree growing in its native habitat, would reach an eventual mature height of 20 metres. So you're looking at, you know, 30 years of training a tree into a form which is so stunted compared to how it would normally be allowed to grow. It's quite incredible, really. Yeah, I think they're a really great find.
Definitely.
Back at the garden, it's September. And one space devoted to a more holistic approach to gardening is beginning to take shape. Therapeutic gardener Azichi Brewster is responsible for this area.
Well, this is the well-being garden. It's somewhere that people can come and they can relax and they can participate in gardening activities. We've got a stargazing mound which will be turfed and people can just lie on the grass, look up to the skies. We've got a woodland area and we have a food forage area.
Many of those who will use this space will be referred by their GP, prescribing gardening as a non-clinical therapy to support their mental health and well-being.
So you could be somebody who's got diabetes or depression and anxiety. Quite a lot of people suffer from social anxieties, and you'll find gardens are quite a nice way of meeting other people, being able to relax and have a calm atmosphere to be in. So that's the aim of this garden, really, is to help people who are in those situations.
This garden is closed to referrals for now because of the pandemic, but Azichi is hopeful things will soon change.
We're expecting that the wellbeing programs will start again when we open in May, but who knows? COVID is such a difficult thing to manage, and we're following government guidelines. So that's really what will determine that. But we do hope, at least by the time that we've planned to open, that we would be able to have our wellbeing program going again.
Despite Azichi's optimism and the relaxing of restrictions, the COVID pandemic in the UK takes a turn for the worse.
the virus is spreading even faster than the reasonable worst-case scenario of our scientific advisors. And so now is the time to take action because there is no alternative. And from Thursday until the start of December, you must stay at home.
The COVID period, when it arrived, was, obviously a big shock for everyone. It was really weird driving into work on virtually an empty motorway that just said, stay at home, stay at home. And the majority of people weren't staying at home. But we weren't, we were actually coming into work day in, day out.
I've got 2 children at home, so between my husband and I, we barely had a day off between homeschooling and working here. And then school was a lot more pressurised in terms of what the children needed to achieve. And then you've got the impetus of less than 6 months till we're opening here and everything ramping up, and trying to balance the 2 of those was definitely tricky.
As we move into December 2020, there's more than a glimmer of hope on the horizon.
In the last few minutes, the UK's mass vaccination programme against coronavirus has begun.
Despite restrictions still being in place, Tracy and her team managed to continue working on the Chinese streamside garden. But any face-to-face collaboration with the designers from China can no longer proceed because of the ongoing pandemic. So, the job of planting the specimen evergreens is left to Tracy and her team.
We had a design from China, and that's very different to what's actually here, because rocks are a natural thing, they're not the shape that are drawn on a picture. So we've had to select and kind of take the ethos of what the Chinese have given us as some guidelines to try and get it right, but a lot of it's just a little bit of a feel. Yesterday we spent a lot of time working out how all of our evergreens would read together. They'll be read as a collection, so we were trying to get them sited so that they looked right in the overall scheme. So I'm just going down now to look at it from the bottom and just check that it's in the right place. As we're actually doing it, I find it a lot easier. It's not so stressful because I've done an awful lot of thinking about it, walking around, scratching my head, trying to work out whether it's going to look right, almost creating a picture in my own head of what it's going to be. Because I think one of my biggest worries is changing my mind every 5 minutes, and then I've got a whole team of people having to move things around just because I haven't quite made up my mind.
Tracy wants to get the pines in first and then tweak them before we backfill so we can get the look.
To add a bit of pressure to the team's day, these specimens have been growing for 30 years and cost thousands of pounds.
They've got to be really, really careful now with this pine. This has been pruned and trained so much. Its roots can be very easily damaged. They're not trying to pull it out of the box, they're taking the box out round the tree, and that's to make sure that they keep the root ball as protected as they possibly can. So you've got this really distinctive wind-swept pine, and then this podocarpus has got a distinctive windswept form. Now we've set everything to mimic the fact that most of our winds are southwesterly direction, so we've set them all so that they look like they're on a mountain scene, buffered by the weather. And it's those kind of small nuances that we hope will set this garden and make it as special as we really hope it will be.
It's February 2021. After the relaxing of restrictions in December, allowing up to 6 people to meet outside, and ending the stay-at-home requirement, England finds itself in the midst of a third national lockdown. Despite this, work continues, and with just 3 months to go before the grand opening on the 18th of May, curator Marcus is keen to check on an area that's designed to promote the health benefits of gardening.
So we're coming into the Wellbeing Garden, and this is our fantastic new structure that's obviously not complete yet. There's a green roof to go right over the top, but the uprights, these have been made from larch that was cut on site by Josh Corbett in the arboricultural team. So really nice big statement pieces. And then we've got this beautiful floor, Scoutmore stone that's been laid in this cross pattern. It matches what's going on over in the kitchen garden. And also on the top of the walls, that's the stone that we've used, Scoutmore. So it's giving some continuity, if you like, right across this site. So we're just at the point of starting to get ready for the opening. The gardens will look fantastic by then, and we've got everything lined up to be ready for that point in time. Fingers crossed.
With spring on the horizon, lifting the team's spirits, there's also a wave of good news sweeping the country.
With every day that goes by, this programme of vaccination is creating a shield around the entire population, which means that we're now travelling on a one-way road to freedom.
I think in terms of the team's motivation, the full lockdown through January and February has been hard for everyone, and you know that's had a big impact. The homeschooling stuff, split shifts, not seeing your family. Now that we've had the announcement and we can see the roadmap out and the light at the end of the tunnel, I think everyone's spirits have lifted. That's come in tandem with the snowdrops are coming out, the temperatures are going up, so the whole tone has completely changed, I'd say, in the last couple of weeks. But if you'd asked me that question a month ago, if you were allowed to come here a month ago, you may have got a slightly more miserable response.
Four weeks later, it's March. And in the Paradise Garden, team leader Sylvia Travers is preparing one of the newly built glasshouses for the grand opening.
We're planting up the Mediterranean glasshouse finally. It's been a year in the waiting. We were supposed to do it this time last year, but because of COVID, the house hadn't been finished, so we had to put it on hold. We had all the plants though, so they've been sort of sitting around, growing out their pots and looking a bit ropey now, but as soon as they go in, they should be fine. The reason for the Mediterranean garden is to try and push the boundaries of what we can grow up here in Manchester. So they're from the Mediterranean climatic zone rather than the geography of the Mediterranean. So there's plants from South Africa, there's plants from Southern Europe. You've got things that are familiar as houseplants, so the Tradescantia here. You've got things that we grow outside, so we've got the cyclamen, we've got clivias. We've also got pineapples in here, just to see if we can do it. They're known to grow, you know, in glasshouses down south. Any Victorian kitchen garden would have had them, so it's again a hark back to our history. And this glasshouse really looks very humble and looks quite old-fashioned. It's not very ornate, but actually it's got loads of technology. It's all automatically controlled. We've got shade for the summer. We're in the most sheltered spot on the entire site. We've got these beautiful walls. You know, if anywhere is going to be sunny, it's going to be in here. I love these glass houses. I mean, it's a treat to have such beautiful structures to work with and to plant up and to spend time in, especially because they sit on the site of original houses and you've got the original footings on the walls for them. And it's just, yeah, it's a real privilege to be able to hang out in this space and to shelter from the weather. You know, when it was really cold, it was really nice.
Tender plants that have been protected from the frost can now be put out. And in the kitchen garden, the first crop of the season is being planted.
I'm planting broad beans. We sowed these beans in early Feb, so they've been sort of had a little bit of a head start. We put them outside for a week just to kind of harden them off. They've been grown in a cold house off heat, so they're very healthy little plants. As you can see, they're dying to get out of their pots into the ground.
With 2 acres to plant up, it's now a race for Sylvia and her team to get as much done as possible before the garden opens to the public.
Having visitors is a bit like an abstract concept still, because, you know, my entire time here has been without any visitors, really. And so, yeah, we're doing it in a way of expectation without really knowing what we're expecting. And we've only got about 8 weeks, 9 weeks left. We're still busy. We've still a lot to do. We've had essentially an extra year. I don't know whether I feel more prepared this time round than I was last year. I think we'll just keep going, doing as much as we can, and we'll see where it gets us.
Located in just over 7 acres of woodland is the Chinese Streamside Garden, an area that, despite the delay in opening, is progressing well. The boulders and the beautiful 30-year-old specimen trees hint at what's to come. But it's still going to take a lot of work. Taking it another step closer at being anything like the finished article are the bridges.
Again, we had designs from China and we needed to find a British manufacturer to make them. But yet again, coronavirus meant there were delays. So it's taken us probably a year to actually get them here on site and get them fitted.
Built off-site and taking weeks to make, this kit of parts takes just a couple of hours to put together and will soon be carrying the weight of thousands of visitors for decades to come.
Each bridge is subtly different based on bridges in China. One's a slight arc, which is like a moon bridge, and then the other one a lattice bridge. Until they were put in place and built, I don't think I fully relaxed. No, they do fit over the stream and they look good. They fit the part, they match the rocks and everything, and they kind of really complete this aspect of the Chinese Streamside Garden.
Water, both ornamental and naturalistic, is a key feature here, and none more so than the centrepiece of the Paradise Garden, the 289 square metre lily pond. The discolouring around the perimeter couldn't be solved, so new solutions were required.
We have had a few problems. I mean, you can see the edges are painted black now. I think it looks pretty good, and we had the paving cleaned yesterday, just with water, no chemicals at all, because obviously we've got lots of plants around, we don't want that in the water system. And it looks really smart and bright in readiness for opening.
Today, Sylvia and Nina are starting to introduce the first of 21 lilies to the pond.
There's 3 varieties in here. They will fill the surface of the pond, but we're not going to fill this pond full yet. Water lily leaves sit at the surface, so we don't really want to drown the plants. I know they're aquatic plants, but they still need a level of oxygen. So we'll gradually top up the water level. As the leaves get to the surface of the water, existing water level, we'll raise it slightly. They'll stretch. We'll raise it, they'll stretch. So we'll keep doing that until we fill the pond. It's a bit of an easier way of doing it. Rather than filling the pond and putting them on crates or something, we can sink them in and leave them.
The lily pond is intended to be one of the must-see attractions for visitors. But the impending opening is giving some of the team the jitters.
I have days where I look round on site and think, how are we going to get this done? But each week I think we're working just that little bit longer, that little bit harder, knowing that we've got this looming opening date deadline, and we really want the garden to be looking as amazing as it possibly can be. It's a celebration of all of our hard work. A lot of us have been here for a long time, and we want people to be amazed by everything that we've done, because we've been an amazing team and worked really, really hard just to get through everything that is thrown at us, weather, coronavirus, and we just want people to enjoy and be able to see our hard work.
Before the visitors arrive, designers Charlotte and Hugo have come to see the kitchen garden for one last time before opening. Due to the pandemic, it's been over 6 months since they visited, and they are impressed with the progress.
It's really bedded in, particularly the trees are really establishing.
A lot more planting has happened since I was last here. Starting to see the climbers on the wall starting to settle in, and the bulbs are out today as well. Yeah, it's just looking lovely.
It's been really great as well, coming not just to see how the planting's established, but things like the water features. They hadn't been filled with water, they weren't operational, were they, last time we were here? And suddenly you've got these metres long of reflective water, just bringing animation into the garden, bringing wildlife into the garden, and hopefully people in a few weeks' time. So we're 2.5 weeks from opening, and it's really exciting. It is a bit nerve-wracking. You know, what we've designed here is a kitchen garden that perhaps is very different to other kitchen gardens that people might recognise. We have taken a heritage layout, we've brought that into a contemporary way of interpreting a productive garden in bed sizes that people could recognisably see as perhaps their own garden sizes, not just as nearly 2 acres of productive garden. But I think it's also really important to remember that a garden is a journey. It's not necessarily a finished point in time, and nowhere, I think, more so than a kitchen garden. And it's not ever going to be a garden that's set in aspect. So what we're trying to do is get the bones of the garden right for opening so that it can grow and develop and evolve in time as well.
When people leave the garden for the first time after seeing it, if they go home and thought, I hadn't thought about growing something like that, or I didn't know I could grow edible plants in that location of our garden, I'm going to take that little snippet home, then I feel that we've done a really good job and we've got people engaged in gardening.
I like the variety here, you know, from a Szechuan pepper, autumn olives, the fruit training on the walls, which I think will be exceptionally beautiful as it comes into its own. I think there's so much here that whatever your interest in productive growing, there'll be something that hopefully inspires people.
Next door to the kitchen garden is the Paradise Garden. It's a fusion of Mediterranean and Asiatic planting.
The Paradise Garden is really close to being there now, and we're super happy with the results. We really need to just sort of focus on a bit of finessing and finishing. So, for example, Josh Corbett and the ARB team have come out, the parottias that you've got over there, they've taken all of the wires out that we had because we were getting the winds coming in from the southwest, so that's all been cleaned up. And Carolyn, who's our plant records administrator, has started putting out botanic labels in the garden. The lily pond area at the centre of the garden, Tom Stuart Smith has gone and picked some plants for the pots, mainly Agapanthus africanus, so some nice cool blues in these darker pots, and then we're going to have some more architectural things in the larger pots up at the top. The lily pond itself, we initially planned on putting the pots right at the bottom and adding a little bit of water, and then let the leaves just come up to the top and then add a little bit of water, but we decided that we wanted the effect straight away, so we've gone for an alternative technique, which is to jack them up on crates. One of the issues that we've had ongoing has been the leaching of some lime around the perimeter of the pond over here. We've gone through various ways of fixing it. Now, John and Laura finally got to the point where we have solved it.
It's where the pressure has built up behind the stone and the wall of the Paradise Pond, and we think we found the solution to put some drainage in it. That drainage is taking the pressure of that water, which is pushing through just underneath the flagstones there. So other than a small little piece, which we'll recoat again, I think we've just about got there.
A small little piece, we've got a tiny little bit there, but it's 99% solved, because it was the whole way around the perimeter before,
absolutely
wasn't it?
everywhere. Yeah.
Another area throwing up obstacles for Marcus and the team is the eastern side of the Paradise Garden, which is devoted to growing Mediterranean plants.
This was always one of the areas that was going to be a challenge for us. We've had a really hard period of frosts. We've had obviously a lot of rain, as we normally do in this part of the world over the winter. But we're really, really pleased with the results through here. Hardly any attrition at all. Virtually everything has come back. We've probably lost 2% of the plants. And, you know, you'd expect that even if it wasn't a Mediterranean, just in standard borders. So we're really pleased with how this has evolved and all of the work that went into improving the drainage to ensure that these plants don't sit wet and cold through the winter has paid dividends. And then if we just push through over this rill here, this is some of the drainage work to help alleviate the problem that we've had down in the pond where it's been leaching out. This is what Laura's been working on to help that build up down the rills. And then just through this space, you know, the Cynara looking great, euphorbias are starting to come into flower. This looked good last year, but I think this year it's going to be an absolute triumph. So we're bang on a week from opening now. If I'd been asked the question, you know, how are you feeling coming up to opening about a month ago, I'd have looked wide-eyed and pretty stressed, you know, because it just felt a mountain to climb. And I know a lot of the team were getting really jittery about achieving everything that we needed to achieve.
I think we're all a little bit nervous. We've been a building site for so long, so we're going to swap contractors for the general public.
We've achieved so much, and it would be lovely for visitors to realise that those beautiful lawns that they can see 6 months, a year ago, was a quagmire, a flood, a bog that you couldn't walk in without sinking up to your waist.
I think we're quite immune to the beauty of it. All we see are what needs to be done. So sharing it, I think, will be the turning point for us to actually realise, yeah, OK, we've done this. It's been a steep learning curve, but it's been a really amazing one, and one that I will cherish for, you know, the rest of my days.
I've got mixed feelings in a way. It sounds a bit selfish, but you know, we've got so used to sort of owning the space and working in the space and it being quite exclusive in a way, just to the staff. I think once we're at the point where the car parks are overflowing and the tills are ringing over and it's hordes of people coming through, that was always the end game, but we've just been a bit spoilt for about 3 or 4 years now.
I am looking forward to the visitors coming. We've done amazing work, and this is the chance that myself, my team, can actually share with the public and see what they think of it.
Good morning and welcome to Breakfast this morning with Louise Minchin and Dan Wolfe.
One of Europe's biggest gardening projects opens today after a year-long delay.
It's the 18th of May, opening day. And after nearly 4 years, RHS Bridgewater is about to open to the public. Before the doors are flung open, over 100 guests assemble on the terrace of the Welcome Building to mark this momentous occasion. The Mayor of Salford.
I'm delighted to be here with you all today on this momentous and important day in the city of Salford.
And Director General of the RHS, Sue Biggs, are amongst those attending.
We couldn't achieve this without your outstanding passion and energy and enthusiasm and determination to get it ready for this opening date today.
And after the celebratory speeches, it's left to RHS Ambassador Carol Klein.
I'm not much good at pruning, as you've probably noticed.
To officially open the garden.
I now declare the RHS Bridgewater Garden open.
For the first time, the public are streaming through the Welcome Building and getting a glimpse of the site, including its centrepiece, the Paradise Garden, designed by Tom Stewart-Smith.
It is amazing to feel that I've had a part in creating something which will, I think, actually touch so many people. I saw somebody who said, I came into the Paradise Garden and I almost cried. And I think that is why you do this, because it brings so much pleasure to people.
Kitchen garden designers Hugo and Charlotte are excited to see members of the public enjoying their creation.
It's so great to see life walking through the garden, because that's what we designed it and built it for people to enjoy. And I think it just brings us, so much pleasure to seeing that.
For me personally, RHS Bridgewater is about trying to celebrate nature, celebrate the outdoors, and make sure it properly connects with the people of our city.
I come from round here. We used to live just up the road, and to have this barren site transformed into this beautiful garden, it's almost beyond belief. It's just wonderful.
The Chinese Streamside Garden is a collaboration with designers in China and members of the local Chinese community. Although the garden is in its infancy, visitors are impressed with the garden's progress.
Well, it's a massive transformation, and it's got such a wow factor as well, and brings so much to the local community as well.
Oh, I'm just so elated. I mean, 2018, we said we're at base camp. We've climbed up the North Ridge, we've stuck the flag in the ground, and it's just fantastic. I can see people already starting to enjoy the garden. I'm just so pleased.
Visitors seem to be enjoying their first glimpse of the garden, and for the team of gardeners that built, planted and tended it, it's an emotional day.
I feel privileged, enamoured to be part of it. So it's to be cherished. It's very nurturing for me today, and I can see it will nurture lots of people.
It's lovely to hear the positive comments of not only the lawns but the gardens in general. They really do look stunning, and they've really just come together in this last 10 days. It's been amazing, really.
Everyone who's been involved in this project should take an immense sense of satisfaction and take pride in what we've achieved in the circumstances that we've done it in, which haven't been easy.
It's a joyful thing to share it. We've been extremely lucky to have it to ourselves for so long, that I will always look back on it with a little bit of affection and pride.
It feels like the first day of this garden, of a new life, of all of the gardens at Bridgewater, where they kind of develop and change and evolve. So it's very exciting, really, really exciting, and so brilliant, really brilliant.
With over 4 years of hard graft, RHS Bridgewater is finally open, despite everything. Over the coming years, the garden will mature and grow to inspire the millions of people who will pass through its gates.
Hey, here's us with the seal, really up. Personally, with the Veslo, with ops in the West, one of the near all is what I surf, star, here, surfing last even if it was your way, then also also sit.
Snart me near with them, you are with the nervous to the dogs are up, but the ass in the sea, it's east in the second, but so it's what on your earth there, and
everybody was the Mario Watts is it was necessarily not had a well enough to see it was I was just with that nag or here would you see it with the lumps and others it's no it's got at the end of the we're the shot just was all other sharp and guests engineers at ma and engineers must of person the shields no have you not other with the low yeah and that what's yeah it was the sharp but there it was well, but oh, you know, they're all in the notion. And if we see how say, you're snug, hey, if there's not, but first the mirror, the Mara, me almost swing a skill, give me if that, you can what half you could see shit, he's the no. Scared not on the ash, this issue, and as to the best wonder if Monkey was, yeah, with yours,
Feeding all with the yards, and you were her stall, man in Austin, I'm excited. Seal Ellen, her stall, Ellen, and I'm off the arms, off when you up. Snarl, be a shin, you flash.
Sasono, Osilganiki, Kusemakawa, Buko Basota, Babu, Babuka, Ome, Wa, Suna, Ka, Koru, Ga, Susuki Kebe, Nimikamo, Kakuku Gai, Wakaki E, Arus Nastato. Poto sami kasaki kono kisiki alitamato sa puso sana ika debukeri sano kawa sota sita shukro sasono usilganiki kusemakawa buko basota babu babuka.
S in the dog gives nigga van ons snap. The dog is taking the so get out. I will not miss this new send LRS and on it. He knows this in the dog. I remember this book mainly resource if it help. The dog was other position. Yeah, we still in. Sister on says yes, and the dog where it's after is. He'll be young. Snuk will be at says yes, snap me. The dog fist under bangest, rest in the we're from Messnick at all. Few I'll just her the guest for you. Young album be that's in the dog ich was nerve fit near it. And the dog ich I know as if you were running a caravan. It was it. Yes, yeah, skills in that again. We are skillful. Was ask you if and it'll be for na. This dog is in the field now. When you're in this dog, it's in the sham and you're just over alpha from all the steam. See it, feel this. I hear we must tell the other one share. But no, where the stove is with. Nip the head. Search if stove without it up till bats is not, but that is just on in your macboys the air getting it.
Ja, das ist ja, das Irish Warp und das ist nicht alles so, wenn das Milch ist nicht alles, salt was ist in der passing ist not bomben.
Ich weiß Taylor reserves the nicht ist nicht lives it.
Serve me Ryan. Das ist jetzt das Nams ist wenn ihr immer nach der Street. We're all in the outside now, but the dog must take this is much. Like we can still ash send you as it. Yeah, was it is if it off you. Oh, the highest way my heels and looks like mobs is not. Sarah Avenue, her thumbs on earth, and if you where I get such law, really, me, museum and a few nerd, if you pay up, see him, was look be moggy. Me acht mal fehni bis auf alkohol da haben offen schier belassen ja nach gibt es auch bisschen gesehen sind nicht liebsten Tag mal wieder na ja das jetzt nicht für wir sit up and they ran the dog able to aber mal able to also nicht hören nicht verkiewski up na sit eigentlich oh nicht ja so mal alle auf sie etwa ja das ist nicht was gelegt nicht nicht this is if it's our place, some but no way, but the next is not be little. not als nemen over. That's no.
The dog has me seen after the first upset sit. Heel from Peter van Aken, if you find it, or which I'm with, if yet, stick, a lit not, me to the best, if you get, when all of you love it there, so if Monsieur me up with, voice. Sterps is talen over in sterp me because it took ja, snow, and ja, she is sterp not see up, and their fit used to sit, sterp, eat. I could stay at the. This is business life, but I wouldn't hear I give me so much. I think it's up to our like the sort of gets off the sticks it. Yeah, Mitski we get the gas for lip. There's different thing the arts not a I shall stay Yale person. Yes, it was. See a little with them here out there can I take up with Yamster stuffing up she's enough to you not and I more sneers nothing like it. Sister Bill. Oh, it's not she if young if you name it yourself that's the kind of thing you get. Oh, but all the guests know it's like it's open neck. See your name's have stories to look to even as a door. Allowing me so girlsy. And when I let the belts that they ran. And the dog gas me seen yash that's it. And the loop was again a best of it, so I needed to get well.
Sticker with snap, here's something else, yeah, it's a with her has a well as now must sit there, won't believe her, the one know that. Hurry, you're scanning that you. Who is this all it's you? He's able to. Felt you out to get about, you know, of him. Get kept her own on either other. And the she kept about when and English the way is. Mas not, you live such as if you know, we there, mount cross now, money, the list, best not, or span call it business in the back.
Well, but it's not wet and the dog get off you. Oh, the sots and I chums a stag. Mr. Henry is zero once. But not with the gears to do.
Now, it's just off by the Alex now, there the snickers up. Snap, little flay. Here, but see what's that look and look me bit from the doors, and I could sit. You were flaws and the boot. Starts the heavy little, but snip minutes. But here. And they snip this. Snip, Lord, is not melt.
It is not nips in the sea, sit the park surface, and the dog is sticking in it. Splash to be one. It's hard for them for the guest of me, but it's not the nest.
Now, there was a lock, there was no anywhere that wasn't for slashes in the steps, and the anger has like still there was hey, such in it, mat. Met the floor when I was stuff when she bit of green. So when she was house and was this hit so could be shipped. And they may snaps was not so or was this or so steep das fast steered step. Nim so halt it well. Hurry, you know, see next are enough any. Slow, sleep it up, she has and upstairs slash some in there hermos flesh. Slow, some solos is long as the zul, ox is got skin or your phone sits in the shuffle. Elks a little more hair school, he lives a saltin. Here's the roast cup of an egg is Mutafru, and drawing stick near roast gavina. Fast not as I salted it no any work is none. So is Nicky face is touching his little man up, so save it of my number is it was there was argue was not be very he's next after this not faster remember for as not be my or you know some snaps her father some snaps they never should them play for what and thought no it's not out they never should them in for this first session I'm very well and keep over now but show me sitting there and never should them from zero now if you push in there we get this when you go ripping it couldn't ma stop with anger. So now I'm just in the bed, so it's not below that. Slow 100 up to strain if you miss that. So they work with the courage, John must sit this up through my yes, yeah, when they're in it. You'll know, so that's hardly never to them, but it's not.
And we're now good. So that's how to be doing it, but on your ass, Så varslig for disse til mis. Nøddagsjæder men dine. Stams etter helskivo.
Simon Milazok, Miami, Vegas number 1, Mixvalrich, Vegas number Silk, Adip Sally, Phillips, Gale, Wixhallen, such an yash, the Mixa. Yes. Oh, this, and the Vegas is domestic, and the Vegas arguments, the was mass in the mix up. There's Phillips, Europe's no vet, you found us to the latest y'all and the white, happy already, him and him slandy, laughing with wine. Yell, my finis, on fish, Elps, fat, single oaks, make it brass at any. Sna, nou weer ver staan en ik zeg hier bij vier naast weer smaakt al loof dus de chef is jumps niet dit is mus niet meer.
Maar hier ja nog wel niet waarschijnlijk dat was niet zo. Schelijk op naast niet naar Louis niet hier gezien in Schiens hebben maar gehoord. Ja, zeker. Hier hier weet je.
Hier mag een nieuw zien look weer we zo zet. Serips mich in dit film. Das Jahr hat man ihr Pseu.
Sarksinger. Ja, es ist noch alle vier der wie als Nial. Nicht hier weg, auch immer der jetzt hast nach alles nach. Nicht wir jeder vier der ist nicht. Ich oft mit das ist. Ja, es ist Sarksinger. Ja, wie fest du in das noch. Müssen wir so weit sehen, wenn wir jetzt als so wo fast noch so da nicht ich in der Führung noch jetzt ob sich am Absorg sind sehr lips in wir so weit voll wo frei ist jetzt gibt ja nie das ist nur auch aber in der Woche hast noch ja noch so Stahl Firmen passiert ja Arbeit aus der Weg ist für mir gesagt ihr mich an jetzt was ich sehen jetzt hast As is it not? Lag nie wel this ning in was.
Mijn lag was definitely for happy maar was niet als iets. Hij ran en nog cash dus niet zie. Ze kwam met hier ruhig. Ja, maar niet eenmaal in het woord naar het of de burgers maar meer het soort doen. Zo in is niet oh. Zet je op zit. Maar het kon ons aan de stemmen. Was is niet afgelopen.